thing is, there's not many people that are pushing forward, but now there's a couple of entrepreneurs that I'm loving, and we all collaborating to try and push it. So it's about education as well. So we're educating people on nuclear and the thorium cycle, and I tell people, and I have it even on my profile pictures. I speak about the thorium, I speak about us having the ability to just take the stuff, put it through the plasma, put it through the reactor, which is our third phase plan. So it's incredible that it's here and we have the ability to change people's lives. And it takes this much for 1,000 lives.
Right.
Just because the facts are A, if the narrative is B and everyone believes the narrative, then B is what matters. But it's our job in our industry to speak up proudly, soberly, and to engage people in this dialogue. Those 2.5 billion people that are in energy poverty, they need us.
America cannot meet this threat alone.
If there is a single country,
Of course, the world cannot meet it without America.
that is willing to
We're going to need you, the next generation, to finish the
overhaul
job.
nuclear regulation
We need scientists to design new
and
fuels.
focus on net public
We need
benefit
engineers to invent new technologies. We need
over absurd levels of radiation protection,
entrepreneurs to sell those
then
technologies.
we will march towards this.
We need workers to operate assembly lines that hum with high-tech, zero-carbon
We have
components.
unlimited prosperity for all humans.
We need diplomats and businessmen and women and Peace Corps volunteers to help developing nations skip past the dirty phase of development and transition to sustainable sources of energy. In other words, we need you.
Okay, so welcome back to another episode of Fire Division Podcast. We're excited today to have John Clarke, the founder of Forever Energy in South Africa. John, how are you doing?
Hey, good in you. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, a little bit of time difference between us, so excited to chat with you today.
I hope you're having a good breakfast there, or are you just about to finish?
Yeah, I'm still working on my morning coffee. John, for our audience, why don't you give kind of just a quick background on Forever Energy, and then we can dive into, well, I guess before we get started, I want to highlight what, we've spoken a couple times on the phone before, and the first time you were challenged because of the grid situation, electricity situation in South Africa, right? I was sitting on the call for like 15 minutes and, well, I guess he's not showing up. And then you emailed me back afterwards and said, well, sorry, I missed the call. The power went out. And I found it ironic that we were calling to try and talk about the future of power and you didn't have power. So anyway.
I mean, that's such a nice segue into how the business started, is because of this.
Yeah.
We've had reports about this since 1994.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 1998, it got worse and they did a whole ISCOM report. You can do some research on that. 1998, they told them that, if you don't maintain your current coal fleet power stations, I mean, it's just obvious. If you have a car, you don't maintain your car, what's going to happen? Same thing. So, I mean, it's just natural. You don't even need to be a scientist or even a rocket scientist to figure that out.
So what's the background on you? Where are you from? Where'd you start? Tell us just a little bit.
I mean, I came up from the Free State. It's a mining town that actually started back. It developed due to mining and due to mining gold, and it's called the Gold Fields in the Free State. And I moved to Johannesburg about 20 years ago to pursue the Mandela dream. Like everybody wants to move to the city. You want to try and you want to move up in the ladder. And, once you finish school, that's your kind of, and this is the place where because then Johannesburg was the capital of the gold tree. I mean, you can just go do a lot of history on that. That's a beautiful history. I mean, the gold reef itself, and how much there's still the East left in reserves. And so mining is definitely big, and that's where I come from that perspective. I mean, then obviously getting to the 20 years in finance, and from selling short-term insurances like from call centers and all the rest, to doing big portfolios, where you're managing brokers, that's why I left off. And now into the energy business. It's completely new for me, but exciting and fun. And I mean, I found out it's completely changed a whole lot of perspectives in my life, because sometimes you think that the nuclear is more about being scientific, but it's at the basis of everything that we look at. But I think I'm getting too ahead of myself. But yeah, it's been a great transition over the past 20 years to where I am now in Johannesburg. Unfortunately, we have this electricity crisis.
Well, you see opportunity in the crisis, right? So you were finance, but there's some issues in the energy industry. So what is Forever Energy, and what are you working on?
So Forever Energy is actually, Ava is my youngest daughter's name. And Forever is forever. It's a play on the thorium cycle. I don't know if you know the thorium cycle. It's like the uranium cycle. It's the same, that whole cycle. So if you have that cycle going, it's forever. So Forever Energy. It's obviously, a little bit of wordplay.
Absolutely.
And so that's where the idea came from. And last year we went into nuclear and we realized that that is a long-term type of idea rather than a short-term, because it's got a little bit more red tape to it, regulation, and a lot more anti-nuclear to it as well, not just in South Africa but globally. Although we do have a fantastic history with nuclear, but I had to do the research and I went into it and I found out that okay, what is going to help us with this current electricity crisis at the end? Is it going to be this renewable stuff that we're talking about? Is it going to be solar? Is it going to be wind? Is it going to be hydro, bio? Because at the end of the day, I've got kids and I don't want them to leave South Africa or leave Africa or in a worse state, or me leaving here in a worse state than leave for them. I want to leave this world a better place for my kids, just like anybody else would. And hopefully with that comes a not so bad legacy, so we're trying to make sure that we give them the space to at least start on a level where they can also have a future. I mean, and I don't want to go too much into stats, but if you just look at sub-Saharan Africa is gonna have the lowest the highest populace with the youngest age rate. If you look, so
Right.
young dynamic people, but there's no electricity, where there won't be electricity to speak of because it's getting worse. What we're speaking of right now is getting worse. And we just recently, a few years ago, built our latest couple of billion rand coal stations, which are not working. They're pretty ineffective right now, So it's a little bit of counterintuitive project management from the government side and that, but I mean, we don't really look at the government. We focus on what we have to do as a private business. And if they come to us, which they already have, and they still are, in talks, so it's great that they are at least open to such talks, which is fantastic. And that just gives us more emphasis that we're in the right direction,
So Forever Energy, that's, I guess right now it's just you or a small team, right? But working on
we
identify. Sorry.
Yeah, look, obviously it's this. I got my wife that's working with me on the admin side. I do have some SOE guys that are helping me with that and website, but most of it's outsourced, and I think it's better that way. It cuts my costs so much, and we work from home, which is fantastic too. So we can do wherever. Just to get to our distribution side, our first side of it is where we're selling portable solar devices. So that's our first entry into the energy game, is having the ability to sell these devices that can charge off grid, can charge your phone off grid, and charge with the solar, charge with the battery. And those are amazing. We will end up designing and manufacturing those in South Africa, but we're getting supplied from China. Obviously, they're the global leaders in that space. It's also just cheaper. So it makes it easier for us to get the capital that we require. So from that perspective, everything is outsourced. I deal with wholesale distributors. I don't deal with like retail clients. So it makes it easier. It's very streamlined. And I think I faintly found it this way. So it's beautifully it's beautifully coming together.
So that was the first tier. I remember you describing multiple tiers of the business previously. So you've got this first tier, which is you identified a need for portable chargers, and kind of because of this unstable grid situation in Africa, portable chargers to sell and retail. And then you figured out okay, well, you can buy them for bulk in China and sell them back to distributors in South Africa, and that's tier one, right?
That's tier one. And the great thing about that is it's not just because of the electrical crisis. I mean, you in your RV and you want a portable solar generator, there you go, boom, got electricity.
Yep.
You know, you camping,
Yeah.
you in the mountains somewhere, whatever. It's a business that can continue running. So irrespective
Sure.
whether there's a power outage or not. So
And what's the size of these systems? I mean, they're not utility scale, they're just portable, but you know, and certainly not for heat or cooking or anything, but to charge devices like.
no, absolutely. No, you can do it for cooking too. I mean, obviously you're gonna need a bit more than 1,000 watts for that. So you just go up,
Sure.
just go up. So it's
Is that the
from about
typical size, 1 kilowatt or 1,000 watts?
so it's about from 1,000. We can get about from 500 watts, which is maybe
Right.
just like okay, that's very small, but up to 6,000 watts.
Okay.
So at 6,000 watts, you can actually do industrial scale stuff. You know, you can drill. So
And is
that's
there like a battery pack associated with this?
yeah, it's actually portable, so you can carry it around like you do your luggage bag. That's about the
Yep.
same. It's about the big luggage bag. It's about 2 charcoal bags or 3 charcoal bags. That's what it's about. And the pricing is, and I've been going over the pricing and quoting, and you know, it's beautifully margined as well. So you know, it's really lucrative. Not only because we're in the situation now, because we're going through an energy transition. So, so because of that, people are also more user friendly, and we don't want to do solid installations or permanent installations. That's how we went portable, because we want to focus on off grid, and that's our niche. And we want to put a portable device in every home in South Africa, and we can take it from there.
Cool. Are the solar panels kind of permanent, or you roll them out, or what's help me
Yeah,
visualize this?
you roll them out and put them in a little case under your seat, under your bed, wherever, and you're
Cool.
good to go. I
So it's
mean,
truly a portable charging system that, yeah, up to six. How big's the 6 kilowatt system then? If you're
so
rolling
yeah,
out these solar panels.
it's the same. Okay, so the smaller ones are hand. You can carry them in your hand, and you can see my hand.
Yep.
You can carry them, and then the bigger ones you can roll. You can roll like your. So that's the size. It's about 2 or 3 charcoal bags, like you know the coal bags. That's about.
Sure.
It's about, let's say, 43 centimeters wide. With the small ones are about 12 kilograms. The
Gotcha.
bigger ones can go up to 50 kilograms.
Right.
I mean, it's they really, and we're still designing them to be slicker and more beautiful and stylish, you know. So
Right.
I'm excited to see what, because I've got a few ideas that I wanna put onto them to just make it easier for people to use without having extra accessories on it, and wires and on cables and that, because you need a cable to go into the solar panel and into
Right.
the portable device as well. So I want to get rid of those things in a way. But anyway, that's for another discussion. But you know, I'm already into looking at the design of it and how we can make it better. You know, we can make it slicker and
Sure.
just a better product. But that is definitely our key product at the moment, and I think it's gonna definitely. It already we're having great feedback already. You know,
Right.
people are interested in. I have to send out now the business portfolio and profile so that people can start getting their monies in there, because it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle. It's an entry point.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you mentioned thorium, but you named the business Forever Energy after the thorium cycle, which is super cool. Meaning, yeah, long-term vision is potentially helping to start some new nuclear in South Africa, right? Have a
It's,
reliable, dependable, inexpensive grid. But just like you said, that's hard. That's long term, and so got to pay the bills between getting, yeah, to get from here to there. So it sounds like you've got this solar distribution business that you're working on first
yeah.
to hopefully try and fund and set up, and I mean set up as a business, and just like you said, as a vehicle to help you get to the bigger goal, right?
The bigger goal, which is massive, but it's needed. So it's
Sure.
about.
So what is it? What is the bigger goal?
So the bigger goal is definitely to go with, you know, the micro reactors on an assembly line, from an assembly line perspective, because this is a third industrial revolution. Pioneers in that space will be able to, if we can get that right with nuclear, then we're pioneering at a different level, you know. So,
Yeah.
and if we can do it in Africa, where labor is cheap, you know, but at the same time we've got the infrastructure, we've got the people also to do it, the engineers, we've got the ability, and now we are busy with the value chain, the supply chain, and that's where the nitty gritty of this whole thing actually starts. Because thorium comes from a waste, a rock, you know,
Right.
and how do you get it into that reactor? So that's the whole supply chain. That's the next big. That's where we have to focus. And thank goodness we've partnered with amazing people in the industry already. I mean, the Thorium Network they have the fission safe group as well, which is got scientists and engineers, and they have validated every single thing I have said and have researched on and have done since I've gone into the whole nuclear space for thorium. I mean, between thorium, uranium, plutonium, I mean, thorium is more abundant, and it's waste in some of our mines that you've already mined. We've got the waste right here. So it just made sense. I mean, I don't need to be a scientist or a rocket scientist to make it make sense. So the problem is, though, is it's politically not accepted. People talk about waste. They don't know that waste is easy to store and it's been safe for years. They don't know that we have submarines with nuclear in them. That's been going on for years. You know, they don't know about Oak Ridge, that and the unfortunately the other side of it, the technology was dying out, but thank goodness it caught some wave. So somehow thorium caught a wave where everyone's so into it now. I mean, really so. But I'm always open to other things as well. So that's why the first pillar is the portable solar generators. But I hope that makes a little bit of sense in why we had to go the thorium route. It just makes absolute sense. And when you join networks and people that can actually validate this for you with the numbers behind it and keep showing you the stuff over and over and over again, it's like you don't even need to be indoctrinated. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying it's so obvious. And if we don't wake up, we will be able to even miss this way, you know. And I'm hoping that people from the US will be able to use their capital to invest into businesses like Forever Energy so that we can get going, you know.
Right.
Yeah, and
so what's the need, John? I mean, in South Africa, I mean, we already mentioned the grid's unstable, but help give us a little bit more color. Why is the grid unstable? Why are there power outages frequently? And I mean, but yeah, just paint the picture for us. Where's the electricity come from?
Yeah, it's a variety of factors. Look, we from a nuclear perspective, to our grid, it's only 2% that it adds to our grid, and we only have.
You guys are the only current or country in Africa that actually has nuclear, right? But it's only 2% still, so lots of room for growth.
So I mean, you need nuclear as a baseline energy. You can't use hydro, solar, or wind for it. Solar, I think, just takes too much space and it's ugly. You know, it just looks ugly. A wind is it's just too much. It's just too much stuff you got to put in there to make the stuff, and then it's not eco-friendly in the end of the day as well. So nuclear's got all of that, and we can argue about waste later, but right now we need the energy. And it's not going to be built overnight, but apparently China can build them within 24 months. So somewhere along the line, we have to start building that. So it's not just lucrative from an economic perspective. It's also good for the citizens, also economically good, socially good. I mean, here we have this pandemic, and now let's go back to why the issue is. It's a variety of factors. It's not just maintenance. It's also a lack of leadership, because there's a consistent change of personnel. So there's not a consistency in terms of how we can, because it's a state-owned, so it's ran by the state.
So nuclear is state-run in South Africa.
So it's ran by ESCOM, which is ran by the state. but Eskom has also got shares out of it to other entities offshore, and they are actually running the Koeberg mine, the Koeberg nuclear power station itself. So it's quite a complicated structure. Not really complicated, but it's not straight. It's not a straight thing, because obviously you have to have some shareholders. It was a massive thing. It was an amazing accomplishment for Africans, for Africa to have had that. And then we have other research reactors as well in the country that are doing other things as well. But that is the only one currently. Yes, up in Egypt, they are looking at more, and in Nigeria, and it's a lot of research reactors. But it's great, and the more the merrier. But just the fact that there's only one in Africa, it's economically viable. But so we also have sabotage that we have to look at from a political perspective as well. It's not something that I can hide away. It's something that is there. Also, we have to limit our coal usage as well to comply with accords. So it's everything that it's a variety of things that are just culminated into having to spread the load evenly amongst each regions, so that the grids are not stuck and overloaded and obviously completely shut down or blow up or whatever the worst case scenario is. So
is there load shedding that occurs? I mean, I'm still
yes, yeah.
or is it a distribution problem for power outages, or is it the coal, they're not turning coal on fast enough, or they don't have enough generation to meet demand?
You could say it's all of that and more.
It's all of it. So it's challenging with to be a utility, right?
There's even a problem, yeah. But that's just horrible project management. There's not consistency within that. I think that's just, if say, thank goodness we've got, and this is the problem. There isn't consistency in the decisions that have been made. So now you get one person that's making decisions in the next 4 years, is a different decision getting made, and it's politically, it's just a mess. So, I mean, even the coal, the quality coal that the power stations are getting is not great at all. They're not even well transported, and when it's wet weather like this, the coal gets wet. So,
yeah.
I mean, just think about that. Now your coal's wet. How you can? There's no storage for that's another management issue. The culture is also horrible. They're not winning. It's not a winning culture. It's not. It's not. Let's get up and go. Let's make this happen. The culture's flat and dull. It's not. There's nothing of. I'm here to do my job, get paid and go. And it's a whole. It's a good thing for me because that means
Sure.
we become slick and better, and they have to be able to come to us. And if that doesn't happen, we export to other countries. And Africa is a massive place with a massive problem, with probably the same issues that we have in Malawi. For example, they only have 12% electricity over there. If we can look at that too at a later stage, but for now, I think we try here and we see how far we can get there. And I mean, I think if you look at other emerging markets, South Africa is probably the best one to invest in. Like really, it's better than China, better than Russia, better than Brazil, better than India. So South Africa would
low cost entry point.
Yeah, good infrastructure. It's got points of sea ports. I mean, politically, yeah, we're a little bit unstable and crime is high, but that's only because we have poverty. What desperation makes people do stupid things.
Right.
And if we can already curb that by giving people the ability to get out of that through alleviating the energy poverty, already we're on the right direction. And I think this is where our vision came together. Our things came together.
So would you say the public opinion is positive or certainly for more energy in South Africa, but what about for nuclear?
I think it's definitely getting positive. I think when people see the numbers, then they automatically just switch. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
So
they're like, this makes sense. Show us the math. Oh, you show us the math. Oh, it's much better than everything else that we have.
The thing is, there's not many people that are pushing forward, but now there's a couple of entrepreneurs that I'm loving, and we all collaborating to try and push it. So it's about education as well. So we're educating people on nuclear and the thorium cycle, and I tell people, and I have it even on my profile pictures. I speak about the thorium, I speak about us having the ability to just take the stuff, put it through the plasma, put it through the reactor, which is our third phase plan. So it's incredible that it's here and we have the ability to change people's lives. And it takes this much for 1,000 lives.
Right. I appreciate thorium also as a resource. It makes a ton of sense. There's several other reactor designs and vendors, though, internationally that would certainly probably be happy to come and step in and build reactors in South Africa. Are there certain countries that you think South Africa would be more likely to partner with, or other technologies that, I mean, you mentioned China could build a plant in 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And I think, especially for Americans, we can be quite arrogant and think, well, yeah, everyone's just going to want to buy our stuff and we'll just export it. But I don't know that that's always true. So I'm curious on your perspective.
Well, I definitely see, like, that's why we need the US, because the US says, 50 years ago already, they've been doing molten salt thorium reactors there at Oak Ridge.
Right.
And unfortunately, the technology was almost lost. That was the most shocking thing. If there wasn't a few engineers or scientists that picked it up, we would have not been probably sitting there, because it's the molten salt thorium reactor that is what makes it. And yes, there's various others. There's pebble, there's liquid. If we look at reactors itself, but I think for me, because it's here and we don't have to go anywhere else to find it, and we can,
meaning the resource is present, and you can use
in
the fuel that that you have, and
the fuel is in abundance. It's ready, and we know what it can do because of the research that's been done already. And what's fantastic about it now, we've got new gen reactors. We combine that digitally in a system where there's no human interaction. Human interaction is on and off and monitoring the pipes and stuff. Those kind of things are obvious. But we're not talking, it runs itself. So that's the beauty about it. It's yes, it costs a lot in the front, but I think that upfront cost is nothing compared to the human cost that we're losing. This the social impact that we're having with putting. And yes, we have to start with small reactors, and the small reactors is the way to get to the big reactor, where we can have full base load for the whole country. So, and maybe it's a great thing that I started with the portable solar generators, because it's kind of a small little reactor.
You understand the energy market, right? Yeah, you've got an energy distribution system. Yeah.
remember, Mark, this all just happened to fall on me. It's just happened to all just fall on me and become a priority because of how it's fell upon me. So I didn't envision this to happen to me. So it just happened to become my thing that I have to do and have to see through, and otherwise my kids are going to have a worse future, and I don't want that to happen. So,
There was an announcement recently about some financial support from several countries for South Africa, like pretty sizable investment. Can you comment on that?
Oh, there's quite a few, actually. Let's just go back to our political situation and why our Koeberg isn't, our stations are not running well, is also because during COVID, we also got a lot of funding and aid, but most of that aid went into the pockets of like the government's friends and whoever. And there's a whole lot of corruption, a whole lot of cases that are publicly known already, which it's so the same thing is going to happen. So unless there's complete transparency with that capital, and we know exactly what's happening, it's not going to work. So you can put trillions into South Africa through our government, but unless we can see as the public where and what's happening, it's not going to happen, because it's going to just end up like, so That's my
So there's
opinion.
not a good level or high level of transparency for government
It's
funding or.
the transparency is okay. It's my cousin that I've given the contract to, so I mean that's a nepotism more than transparency. But they're transparent
Sure.
about the nepotism. So
Fair.
so so that's why I don't want to deal with the government at all, because it's just it's just and the only reason how I deal with them is everything's open. If that's how we if that's not how it's gonna be, then I'm not gonna be dealing with it. Unless, because
Right.
remember, just going back to the second phase of us getting our supply chain right with the thorium network and with thorium is there are a lot of rare earth elements, and rare earth elements has also a military side of it, a medical side to it. So those things that we extracting can help the government too. We can help them from a military advance perspective, from a reactor perspective, nuclear perspective, a whole lot of isotopes that we busy extracting as well. So there's so much more for them to gain than to lose if they don't work with us in a open, transparent, and way that we put those points on the table. If not, then it's going to be more difficult to work with Forever Energy, for example. You know,
Gotcha.
but
So
but we will have the capital and the investors behind us. So there inevitably will have to, because we need the base load of energy, and we need nuclear as part of our our energy mix moving forward, irrespective. So whether it's going to be me or another private company, they're going to have to. But we'll continue striving towards that with or without.
So what would a private company be doing? I mean, if you had a reactor vendor that wanted to come and build a reactor in South Africa, like FLIBE, right? FLIBE Energy, their thorium molten salt reactor. If they wanted to come and build a system in South Africa, what would that look like?
So at the moment, our president has declared a state of emergency for the electricity crisis. So it would actually be the best time to say, okay, let's put a proposal forward, so that, because that means the red tape's cut. You know,
Yeah.
there's right now is the best time to actually say, look, let's go. Let's see if we can get the proposal sent through a government agency, and see if they'll run through the tender. And by this, we can also notice the transparency, you know, because then we're part of that process. So
Sure.
it's a kind of when thing. I don't want to say never, but when then thing. When next time? When is the next best time?
So, but I mean that you have to have approval from the government to build a new system, right? But
So you
state of emergency could expedite that process.
yep,
Is that
expedite the
kind of why you're
process.
saying that now's more ideal, right?
Yes, yes. It would expedite the process big, because everything is all the red tape's gone, basically. You know, regulation
Gotcha.
is basically gone. Everything is gone. You need to now put your proposal forward so that government can say, okay, well, we have to, because we in a state of crisis. We're in an emergency. It's a
Yeah.
crisis.
It's like,
So
well, we can protect against the radiation from the nuclear power plant, and we can have
yeah,
power, right?
yeah, and I mean, radiation is such a thing that people get so scared about, but radiation is actually required in our bodies. It's been scientifically proven, you know, that we need
Sure.
that. And I mean, we've got radiation in beer and bananas. So, so go check a bit up on that, you know, just for fun. So we've even got it on some of our beaches here in South Africa, because we've got monazite on there. So, and monazite, if you actually put monazite through a plasma, you get rare earth elements, and part of rare earth elements is thorium. So
I love it. So, I mean, you mentioned a couple times labor's inexpensive in South Africa, great emerging market, but there's a couple of probably big issues that might scare investors, which, government corruption is always terrifying for investors. And the kind of the workforce, you said, sometimes there can be an apathetic attitude that you alluded to in poor project management. How does that get fixed, or how do those problems get fixed?
so it's also just, from a South African perspective, it's gonna have to take, like, besides and sorry to get away from that question, but just to give you some context, is
Sure.
we've got a billing crisis in Johannesburg, for example, where you can get charged estimated prices on your electricity usage, but you're using solar and you're off the grid. So you get
I see.
charged irrespective of whether you're off or on the grid, because they don't know what's going on unless they go
see.
physically and go. So imagine how much you can steal from that, how much, and that's what's happening. So people are circumventing the system, looking for loopholes. It's the same thing with water. What's another great thing, just a side note on nuclear, is desalination becomes a non-issue,
Yeah.
So that's water for you. The fresh, clean water given by nuclear every day of the year. So they're happy. There you go. People are happy with that too. So it's just we have to scrap whatever systems we have at the moment, and that's from a government perspective. Now, from a private perspective, I think it would be better, because how we're going into this is systematic. We're not just going into it because we know what is happening at the moment. So until they shake up, but by that time, hopefully, we would have had enough capital for them to realize, hey, we actually need. But I think we'll have a revolt in any case if that doesn't happen, because we need it. We need not the revolt, but we need the energy so bad right now, and it's gonna get worse if we don't transition. But everything in terms of that graph is coming together nicely. So as much as it's a bad graph, that hockey stick graph that we see everything go upwards, like my background as well, it's that graph that we see, everything is that way because of what's happening. But at least it's the third industrial revolution that goes with that graph for us in sub-Saharan Africa. In South Africa, specifically, the nuclear will help us with our base load. And if we don't already get the regulation, everything, we have got NEXA, which is our regulator that works with government, but we do have people that understand what nuclear is about. So for them, and we've been speaking to Mintech, which is another resource that we have as well in South Africa that does plasma rare earth elements. So already there's interest. That's what I was talking to you about earlier. So the government's they're not that ignorant, but at the same time, there's a lot more change that has to happen, and it starts at like zero, at the bottom, like with everything. So the building issue, the reason why I brought that up is because if that is an issue, how are you going to manage a big grid if you can't get your billing sorted out?
Right.
You can't get your simple billing. Now they want to sell. They want to make smart homes and sell kilowatts back into the grid, but you can't even monitor the grid to start with. So how are you going to sell it back? So
there's a measurement problem. The age-old saying, right? You can manage what you can measure, and if you can't measure it, then it's
a management
difficult to manage it.
It's a management problem because we've got the computers to measure. So it's a management problem. I mean, we've got AI and stuff to do all that stuff for us much simpler. We don't have to have human interaction at all with this stuff. It has to happen digitally, and that's probably part of this transition that we're in right now as well. And that's why I'm speaking about that hockey stick graph, because it's part of that. It's all.
And when you say that graph, I mean it's the growth that you see, growth potential in South Africa. What's getting measured on the hockey stick graph?
Basically, if you look at let's look at where Beijing was, right?
Sure.
And what happened when their population grew, and what happened to Beijing. And now let's go to India.
Demographics.
Let's go to India. What happened to India? What happened to? It's just, you can just see that so South Africa and Africa is exactly on the same trajectory. It might take us a little bit longer because our populace is still getting there, but we definitely
maybe not growing as fast, but certainly growing. Yeah.
There you go. So, and I mean, by what, 2050, we would, I mean, Nigeria will be off the maps, off the charts. So, and that's North Africa, but I mean, South Africa will also. That's the problem. That's the what we started with by saying that hopefully will be able to have the energy to help that populace of people and that young, dynamic populace of people. Talk about forever energy. Come here. You just walked into the room. This is Ava.
Hello, Ava.
Hello.
Look at that.
Hello,
How
hello.
are you?
Can you talk?
Ah,
Hi.
she's shy. All good.
Yeah.
No worries.
She just came from school, so just kidding. I'm sad. Bye bye.
There you go. That's the future of energy generation right there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd mentioned investment several times. What does it look like for somebody to come in and try and invest and participate in projects in South Africa?
I mean, it really depends on what investment, what you're looking for. I mean, for
Sure.
example, I can only talk about Forever Energy. We're looking to buy more of our portable solar devices so that we can make profit from those
So you can scale faster. Yeah.
so we can move up but right now we have to do proposals to government because it's a state of emergency that we can try and see if we can help with our nuclear situation as well, with our power situation with nuclear as our solution. So
Gotcha.
right now we actually have the perfect opportunity to speak and be closer to government than ever before, although like I say, there are conditions to when we want to work with them and how. But from an investment perspective, it's you have to put it into the business, into a private entity, because then you have more control. Not control, but you get statements back.
Sure. Yeah. Certainly you
It's
have control. Yeah. It's your business. That's called ownership.
yes. So and I mean it's what's the great thing about thinking about buying in bulk and selling at retail prices is obvious. So we will be profitable and highly so within the next 12 months. So and we'll be able to share those numbers with our investors so that they can see. And then they can go to nuclear. Because it's an entry point, that's a great point to you. It's also like a pilot, like a entry point to see, and can we do this, and it's,
Sure.
I mean, to be honest, like $2 million is peanuts in South Africa. It's peanuts, so and I've seen 16, 14-year-olds on TikTok from the US that are making billions. So they need to come over and put their cash here and not stop wasting it on stupid things over there and, buying NFTs and crashing coins and cryptocurrency.
You mean there's an opportunity to invest in a developing nation that needs real hardware and infrastructure that can better human lives immediately rather than invest in digital currency? Yeah, okay. Well, perhaps I'm biased, but I see the value.
We're changing lives, we're leaving a legacy. Yes, the one thing that I am afraid of is unintended consequences, because we don't know what nuclear necessarily has in store for us. And thank goodness the thorium cycle is a non-proliferation boon to it, because it cannot be turned into a nuclear weapon at all. And with the reactor technology, which is fantastic, it definitely cannot be turned into plutonium or any other uranium for weapons. It freezes or it shuts down. So that's the system from the molten salt thorium perspective, and I like that system.
Do you have any estimate on how much capital would be required to build one of these systems to get started?
Yeah, it's a large capital. I mean, I was looking at it's $1 billion a year for 10 years, return after 14. So it's quite substantial, and investors get so afraid when they hear me say that.
So $1 billion a year for 10 years. That's huge. I don't know who would buy that.
Look, there's money, our treasury is worth 3 trillion. Not that they can put the cash right there. I just told you about TikTok billionaires that, I mean, it's not that difficult to get. Honestly, it's not. So the point is we need to get there. It's not that difficult. It's a big number and it makes people scared, but the long-term effect of it and what it has, the social aspect of it, is no economics that can. We have to go to space. There's space technology that comes with this. So
Sure.
$1 billion a year for 10 years is nothing, it's nothing. If you look at if we go up to space first and we start innovating on gravity technology where we can do stuff in that perspective, for example, we're already winning on another. People are doing it already. US is obviously leading with that. Russia has been leading with that. China is doing it already, So, but we need competitive, and it's cheap right now. Here, you're actually doing some social good, and
Right.
and we're gonna strive to get there. We're not here to fail. We're here to win, and we're here to make sure that we get this accomplished. So we're not gonna rest on our laurels and not make it happen, And you can create a consortium. You can get credit. If you need boost in terms of the numbers, we can put the numbers down, and you can see what the effects of it would be, not just from an economic perspective.
I guess help give us perspective. How big, what kind of generation facility would that be then for $1 billion a year?
Yeah, so you see, that's where the big difference comes in, because after that 14 years, you have almost 10 reactors, because you can't build.
And what size reactors?
We're looking at the average size reactors as it is, the Gen 4 reactors as it is at the moment.
So like gigawatt size reactors, right?
Remember that I'm hoping we can innovate better on the size of those things. I'm hoping that we can do better, because there are material science that have become better, especially for issues like corrosion. So I'm hoping we can innovate better we can bring the price down dramatically. But I want to.
So sorry, I guess I was thinking, because you said originally you start small to go big. And so when you said $1 billion, I was like, is he talking about for microreactors or the SMRs?
No.
But if
No,
$1
those
billion's for a gigawatt, then that's actually pretty cheap,
Yeah.
right? Meaning, like, we just spent 30 billion or 33 or whatever building gigawatt size reactors in the US. So if we could build one for 1/30 of the cost in South Africa,
Thank you.
then yeah, looks great. So
Thank you. Yes, it's your bigger reactors, but it takes over a period of time and we could.
So what if somebody wanted to step in and like build like a 10 to 20 megawatt reactor, like the Last Energy guys are deploying, or there's a bunch of microreactors that could step in and
Yeah, that's exactly what we want. I mean, that would already that would push our supply right up to where we need it to be. So
right,
immediately that would like solve our problem, basically, like that.
Yeah.
Boom, problem solved. And yes, the reactors that we're looking at is long term, and we could cut it down from 10 to 6 years. We could do that, but we want to innovate better with the material technology that we have currently, and we can make a big difference. We have to do a bit of research and development, and that's why it's more, sounds more, it's a bit more, but it's peanuts to offshore currency right now. I mean, you guys are almost at 18 to the rand right now, so you have to. Mark, it's
so I guess that's another good clarification. Is that $1 billion South African dollars or rand, or is it $1 billion US dollars?
No, it's US. It's US dollars. It's US dollars.
Sure.
I have to pay. We have to pay as in people from all over the world in your kind US currency.
Right.
So
right.
We have to work. But I mean, in South Africa, things will be a lot better. So we'll be able to manage that efficiently, which is another great thing. So I'm excited about that. Really excited to see that to fruition.
John, I love your enthusiasm. We've had a lot of discussions so far, and we're coming up on our time. But I want to give you kind of last word to give us one more chance to say where this is going and what gives you hope.
Yeah, it's people like me and other savvy entrepreneurs that actually are into this space right now that are actually pushing this, and I'm hoping that they could actually also, and people like you, Mark, and like around the globe, that are willing to actually open up our minds and not be so closed-minded. And I think it's, like I said, part of that same graph. It might be a thing, we're all moving in that direction, not spiritually, culturally. I mean, I started doing some meditation myself as well, to stop being so excited about this stuff. But I mean, it's ingrained. And when you can see the obvious outcome and the light at the end of the tunnel, you just have to push that way, And for me,
Yeah.
I think just waking up every day, having to look at my kids and knowing that we have to get this done just motivates me even more. So, and the networks that I've already created over the past couple of months is just been amazing. I mean, the interest, people that understand the economics behind it are really grasping it, and they can see, okay, look, we just need the vehicle. So we, Forever Energy and other businesses are creating that vehicle for everybody to put their cash in, put their capital in, do good, also get some capital back and retire early or wealthy, So that's,
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, if you put all those lovely things together, you get a lovely package, which is good on social, good on governance, good on your economics. And I think once we build it and build the team even better, because I really want to build a great team as well behind Forever Energy. We're still young, we're only a startup, so
Sure.
that's why we want to be leaders in the market, especially we want to establish our brand with the portable solar generators, make sure that we get that niche under our belt, and hopefully that sector can move on as we focus on the bigger things, So
Yep.
we got to keep on working, and that's all I can say, all I can do.
I like that. That's a great place to leave it. John Clarke, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
So much, Mark. All the best, and we'll see each other soon. Take care.